What's cracking, everybody? Felrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Badly content. Today I finally hit Legend in the current season, Season 10, Season 14, I don't know what freaking season it is anymore, because they don't keep it consistent. But hit with a team that I've actually run before. You may have seen it on the channel. I think it might have been a season or two ago. Shadow Gliscor, Tapu Fini, and Reginald Steele. Mint green trash can in, I would say in the flesh, but he's actually made of metal. So basically this team functions as a pseudo ABB, but more like a balanced team. The Reggie Steele Tapu Fini backline is meant to like draw out those Trevenants. So you're gonna swap into whichever one is the least dominating backline matchup, and then just kind of make some magic happen, which is what I've done all day. I spent like all 5 sets today sweating, playing some really sweaty, amazing battles. So good games to all the opponents that I played today in my sets, especially those in these final 2 sets that I've shown here. During the Legend run, I realized Tapu Fini is just going under and above. Yeah, you do you, girl, I guess. So anyway, let's jump into these battles, y'all, and just kind of see what this team's made of, because it's an incredible team. And shout outs, by the way, to one of my Patreon subscribers who said they ran this team to Legend this morning, and they said, you know, it's strong right now. And I'm like, all right, you've convinced me, because I've hit a wall lately with this game. I took the beginning of the season pretty slow, and then I don't know, I just like feel like I've hit an RPS wall for the most part in the last couple of rotations, especially after Weather Cup Ultra League. I just had a huge funk happen. So I was really pumped that this team just did 5 consistent positive sets all day today, was able to get me up to where I needed to be. So the name of the game here is, if the opponent doesn't destroy your Gliscor's face with the lead, like with the ice type, getting energy on it is very useful, especially when you can do so without having to really take anything back for it. Just like that. So this Snorlax is now going to have to take a move. Now I actually go here and I'm trying to catch a Body Slam, which I successfully catch Body Slam. That's hard to do, man. And then they come in with a Shadow Machamp, and I'm like, oh, this is great. All right, so Shadow Machamp is about to beat my face in. Now I'm going to go for this Zap Cannon. I want to lower their attack, and I want to be able to get to a point where I can actually throw a Focus Blast to get their other shield, hopefully. But my opponent throws a move here, and I'm like, well, they've got, I think I counted like 14 counters worth of energy by this point. So I'm like, you know what? They're going to burn both shields on me just to do that, but now they're going to throw this Rock Slide, I assume. But it's actually a payback, which is cool. Huge shout outs to seeing somebody running something like that in this league. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw an Earthquake at them before they can get to my take out my Gliscor, because I kind of need the Gliscor. So what I'm going to do here is a little risky. I'm going to go for a Night Slash bait, but I'm not going to build all the way up to the Earthquake. I'm just going to pray that my opponent wasn't paying attention and they actually don't know the count. So they thankfully did not get the count correct, but I get to the Earthquake energy and I have to shield this, because I assume they're probably at 2 moves, but Gliscor is going to win CMP and the Earthquake is going to take out the Snorlax, and that's going to be a win. Now, I had just these, every single battle I had to finesse something out of nothing, it felt like. So here we go again. Virizion, you seem, this is a good lead, you think, right? Here's the thing though, if my opponent is running my opponent's running Virizion, they actually absorb that energy quite nicely. So the only thing I have to deal with is wing attacks. So if I'm not doing wing attack damage to that Virizion, it actually kind of sucks. But I count up to, I was just kind of using the Force again, trying to see if I catch a move my opponent. I know these typically have Aqua Tail, and the opponent's going to go for a Dark Pulse against the Reginald, and I actually call it, his nickname is Reginald. Is amazing. Gonna go for Zap Cannon, no attack drop, but I'm able to get this thing within farm range, which is good because I want to have some extra energy to pressure my opponent's Virizion when it comes in to try and farm me down, which is good because that's still damage I'm doing to the Virizion, because as you could probably imagine, it's probably running Leaf Blade. Also, not something that my Tapu Fini really appreciates, so being able to do some chip damage to the Virizion and even force them to throw their energy here to cut me off from another move is really nice. So Gliscor is going to come back in here now after this, and we're going to see what my opponent's got in the back. Now, because it's Aurorus, it's rock type, that means they'll take super effective damage from the ground, so I'm going to force a shield off my opponent here, or they get one shot. And now, Tapu Fini with 2 shields, easy. Now, I'm assuming my opponent's probably going to go for a Meteor Beam here. Wouldn't KO me, but I'd rather not eat the Meteor Beam, and I am in more control of this matchup if my opponent does, because they decided not to bait. So I'm going to go and build up a bunch of energy, and I'm going to throw the Surf right before they would get to their next Meteor Beam. And I'm going to throw it, and they've shielded. That's huge for me. So now what I can do is I can shield back, and if they throw Meteor Beam, I can farm down before they get to a third one. But they go for Weather Ball, which is really smart. And they overfarmed a little bit before getting there, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the Surf, KO them, and I'm going to try and get to a Moonblast here. My Switch Clock's coming back up. My Switch Clock is back up, so right before I get to the Moonblast, I switch out into my Gliscor, and now they're going to throw a Leaf Blade into the Gliscor, and they're also going to have to take some damage from my Wing Attack, so they have to throw another move so Gliscor doesn't take it out, but I've got the Surf loaded now on Tapu Fini, which means Tapu Fini is going to be able to take out this Virizion without needing a Moonblast, which is really clutch because, man, that was close. And I'm on the edge of my seat for like all these battles at this point because these were sets 4 and 5. I got the legend on the last battle of the last set. I needed every single win that I got. So you just wait till the last battle. It's an absolute nail biter, dude. All right, so Tapu Fini is going to come in and absorb what would be a Scald here. I was afraid they might have Ice Punch, and if they had thrown, I was just going to be ready to shield. But because they decided to throw that Scald, Tapu Fini is going to be able to take that. But they're overloading a ton on their Poliwrath. They come with a Venusaur. They came in with a Venusaur, dude. The only person in the entire Ultra League is going to be running Venusaur. You know what, though? Kudos to them. Venusaur is still pretty cool Pokemon. I'm going to do as much chip damage as I can here. I recognize that if the opponent gets to a... if I go up to the Moonblast, they're going to get to a Frenzy Point, and I'm going to lose out on that damage. And I would rather put my Gliscor in a position where I can actually just farm this thing down and get some energy. So I'm going to come in with Gliscor here, and I'm going to have to soak a Frenzy Plant, which sucks because I know that these are going to hurt. But I should be able to farm down all the way from here because they should not be able to get to another move. And thankfully, we're going to get there, have a loaded Earthquake ready for the Poliwrath that comes back in. My opponent has to shield this, or they go and lose all that energy, and my opponent lets it go. And they have a Charizard in the back. All right, so this is where it gets tricky, ladies and gentlemen, because Charizard is not Shadow. Now, as you saw in yesterday's video, a Shadow will almost one-shot a Reginald Steel, but because they're not running Shadow, I can actually comfortably tank a Blast Burn if it hasn't been debuffed, or if it has been debuffed especially, which we get the debuff. And because this is the last Pokemon alive, this is why I came in with the Registeel immediately. We both have 2 shields. With 1 shield down, I'm going to leave it up to Gliscor, and I can get to 3 Zap Cannons here because of the fact that they got that debuff. Now they're forced to throw yet another one, and they get the debuff again. So I'm going to let them go. Or am I going to let it go? No. My opponent is going to have to throw all of their energy into this next move, and I'm like, okay, they're going to throw right before I get to the Zap Cannon. I figured there's no way this is another Blast Burn, is it? They didn't have that much energy, and I lost count by now, I'm going to be honest. No, Blast Burn comes in, but watch this. I happen to know from doing factions that at the 50% mark, this Charizard is boned from this Earthquake. Earthquake does exactly 50.2% damage to the Charizard, and that's going to be enough to take it out when that would have normally been... Oops, missed it. When that normally would not have been enough if it was a non-Shadow Gliscor. So that's matchup knowledge. That's one of those things that just kind of comes. So this person is running Chesnaught, and they safe swap into a Heliolisk, and my stupid self decides, I'm going to try and bait this person. I bet he wants switch advantage, so he's going to shield to get it. And I should have just gone for the stupid Earthquake, dude. Nope, he's no shields, and I'm forced to come in with my Registeel, and I'm going to hope he doesn't have Bulldoze. I know Heliolisk has Grass Knot, Bulldoze, and Thunderbolt, but they're running Thunderbolt, which is fine with me. And now this Focus Blast is going to go through. I have forward farm just a little bit to try and get to the next move a little bit quicker against that Chesnaught, because that's probably going to come back in. And it does. They're going to get to a superpowers here, so I got to be careful with that. But I'm going to go straight for this Focus Blast. Takes about half or so off of the Chesnaught, and at this point I'm just happy enough to whittle down the Chesnaught, but they've got a ton of extra energy, so I have to be careful about that. And because I stayed in as long as I did with my Gliscor, my opponent is gonna be able to get a shield off of me by throwing a Frenzy Plant, even though they've been debuffed. And now they come in with Ampharos, and I'm like, oh no. So my Tapu Fini has had absolutely nowhere to go this entire game. So now that I'm forced to deal with the Ampharos, now I'll bait. But now I have to shield this or I'm going to lose my only answer to their electric type. So They're going to go for a Brutal Swing. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Brutal Swing's not resisted. They're going to go for Thunder Punch. That would be resisted. That's fine. So I'm going to hope to try and catch a Brutal Swing on my Tapu Fini, and my opponent over farms like an absolute Chad. And they still throw Brutal Swing here. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is a Focus Blast, Brutal Swing, Ampharos. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. So at this point, they come in with the Chesnaught, and that's a really smart move by my opponent. I think they were out of energy, and I could have overfarmed here. But I would have definitely gone down to fast moves either way. Now my opponent's got enough. I'm hoping that they didn't have enough for the next move, but they were on their 2 cycle, so they had enough, and that was it. Brutal Swing takes me out. Well played. That was a great game, and I fumbled it by not going for that Earthquake right away. Don't bait. Just go for it, folks. Okay, so Swampert. This is a tough one. So the way we play out Swamperts with this team is we're going to build all the way up to an Earthquake, and we're going to let the first Hydro Cannon go. Shadow Gliscor comfortably tanks a Hydro Cannon from a non-Shadow Swampert, and I will bait for the Night Slash, but honestly, don't mind you just going straight for the Earthquake, because then you just clap them because they don't think it's coming. But the nice thing here is that after the first one goes through, my opponent is going to have to start shielding here, and if they don't, they'll be in Wing Attack range. So Night Slashes are going to come through, and I'm just hoping for a boost at this point. Maybe I'm going to get one. No, my opponent does not stay. They also decide to stay in, but I'm going to catch on the Hydro Cannon to catch it on my Tapu Fini. I swap to catch this Hydro Cannon here, and that is going to be resisted damage, and the best thing my opponent can think to come in with is a Stunfisk. As confused as I am, I'll take it, because again, I'm on my way trying to battle myself out silly here for Legend. If my opponent wants to swap a G-Fisk into my Tapu Fini, I'm all for it, because also that means I don't have to deal with it being on my Registeel. So I'm going to be able to get to a Surf here. My opponent gets there one turn before, and I decide that this energy is worth it, because that means that I'm going to be able to force them to throw before I get... I mean, the bunch shots aren't doing that much, so they're going to have to throw before I get to the next Surf. They're not going to be able to just farm me now, but they let it go. I was really hoping to get their next shield. Now, I don't know what that was all about, but my opponent's got a Talonflame, and I fumble this game so bad. I go for the Surf right away to get their shield, and then I come in with Registeel. Now, I'm almost certain that they're going to try to swap to catch this move. It makes sense. They should do that, I would like to think. Flame Charge goes off. I am 1 away, but instead of throwing the Zap Cannon, because I wasn't sure if it was 4 or 5, like a dingus, I let them throw that, and I threw the game. And I'm so mad at myself right now, because this 4-1 would have been Legend, I think. It would have been very close. I think it was at like 2970? Yeah, 2970, right on the nose. And then I see a Dragonite, and I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. So I swap immediately into my Registeel here, because that's the less dominating matchup, and I'm pretty sure if I remember this game correctly, I kind of get walloped. So I think that this should probably be the first game of the final set. So they're going to come in with a Cobalion, normal, okay? Dragonite, Steel normally goes together. They're going to go for Sacred Sword. I'm going to go for a Focus Blast here. And, I know Focus Blast is going to take out a lot of this Cobalion's health. And I would not mind getting another shield here, but they do let it go, which is fine. They know they're going to win this matchup. I would have to put down all my shields for this, honestly. They're just going to farm me down. I'm like, all right, let's get the farm on my Gliscor. I don't know if it's going to be worth anything, but Gliscor is going to come in and farm this thing down, and I'll just absorb whatever energy I have. I'd rather keep the shields for the energy that Dragonite's got loaded. And then a Stone Edge will take out, it's 45% or so. And I'm expecting them to come straight in with their Dragonite, so I am going to immediately try to swap to my Tapu Fini, hoping that they maybe have another thing in the back. But no, they instead have a Jellicent, which is definitely not what I was expecting nor what I was hoping to see. So I feel like top lefting at this point, but I'll play it out. Maybe not. They did bait me with the Surf right off the bat, which is smart. I mean, that's what I probably would still go for the Shadow Ball, because most Tapu Finis at that health are like, yeah, man, I can tank it. So had I not shielded that Surf, would have been in a much better spot, because I'm going to shield this, and now this is going to be the Shadow Ball. But I mean, most people will just kind of let the moves go because they know that they can live them. And I'm throwing on alignment here. I'm doing all kinds of bad plays in this game. At this point, I'm just trying to make some magic happen. I wanted so bad to come in and snipe it with a Night Slash, but instead, like a dingus, I missed the Night Slash button because I wasn't sure if I had it. And then this is all. I even get a boost. I even get a freaking boost, dude. If I had gotten that Night Slash off instead of over tapping like a fool, excuse me, this might have actually gone a lot better. But my opponent's got 2 superpowers. Going to let him rip into the Tapu Fini. They played this excellently. I played it like an idiot. Well played to them. Good game. Absolutely good game. That was well played. So next game we've got coming up here is Gliscor into Cresselia, and this is a really awkward matchup because I know that they could have Grass Knot, and my Tapu Fini does not appreciate Grass Knot. So I'm going to stay in with Gliscor here and look to do some Night Slashing, and maybe come in with Registeel at some point. Maybe to try and catch a charge move, possibly, just to try and absorb some energy and get some extra damage on the Crest here. Put it into a range where I can take it out with Tapu Fini possibly at some point, but instead my opponent safe swaps into their own Registeel, and Reginald is looking real nice in the back here. So I'm going to get a shield off my opponent, and then I'm going to come in with my Registeel. I was trying to, I don't know, I was trying to catch something. I don't even know what I was trying to do there. But then I'm going to catch a Zap Cannon on my Registeel, and I get the attack drop, which sucks. I have an extra shield, which is nice. And I'm going to have to just let it all ride and just see what they've got in the back. Typically, something that might have in the back against the Cresselia would be something that would be anti-Registeel, anti-Charizard, so they'd probably have something like a Swampert or a Tapu Fini or a Jellicent, something back there that would prefer not to have to deal with any of those 2 things, because those are usually 2 of the harder counters for Crest. And then there's also like Darks and Ghosts and stuff too. So we'll just kind of see what they've got in the back. It could be one of a few things, but I'm going to come with Tapu Fini here actually, and I will shield. The reason being is because Gliscor is too far away from any move to get there, and I can surf this thing down, especially because I didn't get the debuff. I can get to a surf before they get to any charge move, which is nice. And then I'm going to be able to take out the Registeel before they can get to a move and take really no damage doing it. And because they have a Crest, I'm going to assume they're coming with the Crest here, and I'm just going to come in with my Gliscor. My opponent immediately swaps into a Scrafty, and I couldn't be happier, as a Shadow Earthquake is going to clap the pants off of the Scrafty, whose pants are already falling off as we speak, as you can see here. I'm going to let this go. I'm going to put the shield onto my Tapu Fini. I'm going to farm down the Scrafty without shielding a thing here if I don't have to. They're going to let a move go. I'm assuming it's probably just Power Up Punch, but even if it's a foul play, I don't need to shield this. And then I'm going to be able to get a Moonblast off and hopefully get to a Surf as well against the Crest. And I think what I have to do here is I have to call that they're either not running Grass Knot or hope that I live the Grass Knot that comes my way. So Moonblast is going to hit this Crest on CMP. I'm going to no shield here because I think I live a Grass Knot even if they have it. But they have Moonblast, which means that must be a non-Grass Knot Cresselia, and I'm going to get to the Surf before they're going to be able to get to another charge move, take out the Cresselia, and that's a good game. Very close. This whole set's close games, dude. Well played to my opponent. So we got this next game here. We've got Gliscor on the lead versus a Pidgeot. Now, this is a nightmare right here, so I'm safe swapping immediately to Tapu Fini, and they have Gust. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and go for a Surf right before they get to that last Gust off, and maybe they don't count. Maybe they think it's a Moonblast, and my opponent shields, and getting a shield here is honestly huge, because it also tells me that they're probably about to Feather Dance me rather than Brave Bird me. Typically what will happen with the Pidgeots is they'll shield any charge move that comes their way if they're expecting to Feather Dance in that matchup and then dip out, because obviously if they can take a move that's been Feather Dance, they prefer to do that rather than taking a move that was full power. So Cobalion is going to come in here, and assuming there's probably going to be a Virizion in the back, so or maybe even a G-Fisk or a Registeel. So I'm certainly happy to have seen the Cobalion here, because against Registeel it wouldn't have been a great time. So I'm going to go and try and get a few more moves in here before they get to a Sacred Sword to do any more chip damage. I'm going to throw this Night Slash. Should be enough to KO, especially because we got the Shadow boost. And my opponent's got the Pidgeot with Gust, so I'm going to go for a Night Slash to do some chip damage. And then what I'm going to look to do here is I think I go for another Night Slash maybe? And then no, I'm going to go straight into my Registeel to force them to swap out. They have a G-Fisk, and G-Fisk has one shield. I have 2 shields, and I'm ahead on energy by like 4 lock-ons, which means that I've got a significant energy lead here. 1 Focus Blast is going to do a ton of damage. I just need 2 more Focus Blasts to KO here, and my opponent's Pidgeot is in the back, and because I've got 2 shields, I would much rather use them here, but I know that I live an Earthquake, and because I've got 2 shields, my opponent is likely to bait at some point, so I call that bait, even though I know I would have lived the Earthquake at some, regardless. And happily they have baited. So now I can safely shield this. And I should hopefully be able to get to an Earthquake here before. Now, I'm considering making me catching, but I get to the Earthquake or Focus Blast a lot sooner than they get to the Earthquake, so I just throw it. Don't try to get fancy. And then I just need to go for a Zap Cannon against the Pidgeot, but the opponent concedes, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. That was a rough lead. Honestly, the Pidgeots and Flyers are rough for Gliscor, so I was happy enough to have been able to do that. Now, my opponent is going to lead Scrafty, and they come immediately in with Drapion, and they throw it 4. I'm like, okay, they have Aqua Tail. That sucks. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look to throw my... I was going to try and throw an Earthquake, but because they get 4, I was going to catch the Aqua Tail on my Registeel, and then I'm going to go for charge moves here. I know from this matchup, at least from the Shadow, I'll move almost KOs. I'm going to go for the Zap Cannon here, I think, because that's going to allow me to get some extra farm if I don't KO this thing. Which is definitely ideal, because if I can Focus Blast the Scrafty, I feel like I'm in a good spot. And this leaves it in a perfect farm range. I'm like, okay, crunch me, it's fine. But my opponent hard swaps in Trevenant, and that's fine. Because now that I know the rest of their team, I was expecting it to be Jellicent, because I saw the Zionic team with the Scrafty Drapion team this earlier. And I'm going to farm up on my Registeel, and I'm going to quick swap into my Gliscor, knowing that this is where the Gliscor needs to be, and to get an attack boost. That's amazing. I love when I get attack boosts off Night Slash, but we CMP on the second one, and I'm going to go for another Night Slash here. I want to take out this Trevenant. My opponent puts up their second shield, and I get another attack boost. Dude, this is massive. So they're going to go for another move. I'm going to go for some fast moves, and dude, you remember how much HP that thing had left? Like, look how much damage the freaking Gliscor is ripping through this person's team now. With all of that attack boost. That's a max attack Gliscor right now, and that's amazing. Earthquake completely shreds this Scrafty and just kaboom, 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 kaboom. Every single one of those wing attacks, dude. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. Alright. This is the final game. This is the nail biter that you've been waiting for, and I need this win to get to Legend. And my opponent gets me with the Shadow Walrein in the lead, and they hit me with the Trevenant in the back. And I'm like, oh, of course. Well, of course. I can't top left, though, because you never know what's going to happen, right? For all I know, they could be weak to Registeel in the back, and that would be great. So my opponent also doesn't let the Moonblast get a shield here. They let it go, which was really smart by them, because that's how they give less farm to my Gliscor. So Gliscor is going to come back in, but I need to wait out my switch timer, because I don't want my Gliscor to be stuck in against this Walrein. So I wait out the switch timer, and my opponent goes for a move, which is perfect, because now the switch timer will be completely reset for me. It's just a Seed Bomb. And I swap immediately into Walrein, and they come in with a Cresselia, and suddenly there's a win condition for me at this stage. This is going to be a long game, though, folks. So we've got about 3 minutes left in this video here. But because it's Cresselia, this is fine. Because I don't need to shield a single thing here. And my opponent won't shield a single thing either. They're just going to get my... They're going to get my... they're going to get my Registeel into as bad a position as they can, try and go for Moonblast debuffs, and just pray that, you know, they can, you know, their Walrein can handle it afterwards, which is what's going to end up happening. It's going to be Registeel versus Walrein. My Gliscor has nowhere to go at this point. Our switch clocks are so in sync that if I tried to swap out my, if I tried to swap in my Gliscor, they just immediately come in with the Walrein and hard farm it all the way down. So I have absolutely nothing I can do there. So I'm not looking to try it, but I'm going to go for the Focus Blast here. I don't think it's going to give me any extra farm, but it's the cheaper move. It'll leave me with a little bit more energy on my end. So now the Walrein matchup comes in, and I'm like, oh boy. So I'm going to have to try and figure this out. My opponent goes for the Icicle Spear bait, and I shield it, and I'm like, okay, goodness. All right, that makes sense, because I have 2 shields, right? The bait makes sense. So what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to hope that I get an attack drop. They don't attack drop nothing. But I am going to be able to catch a move on my Gliscor, which is going to act as though it was another shield. I was hoping it was an Icicle Spear or an Earthquake. It still puts them behind some energy. That's honestly the only real function of my Gliscor at this point. If I can get 2 more moves off, I can win this game. And I have to call a bait here. I'm going to call it. I have to no-shield this. It's an Icicle Spear, and suddenly I feel like I can win this game despite being hard countered from almost back to front. Registeel just plowing through 2/3 of this team. They go for the Icicle Spear, and I'm like, I shielded up, but I know that they're not going to get to an Earthquake. I know that this is an Icicle Spear, and we just saw how much damage it did. 1 away from the Focus Blast. Is this going to be enough? It better be, because if it's not, then we don't have a video then, do we? Focus Blast takes out the Walrein just before time, and that's going to be a good game. Well played. Oh my god. That last game was nuts, okay? The last game was nuts. But able to clinch it, grabbing Legend in this season of RPS Battle League. Hate it. Please, 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 please give us better move updates next season. I need something new. This RPS meta sucks so bad. But whew, that was a great day of battling right there. Well played again, once again, all my opponents. Wonderful to get Legend in this weird season. So, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you all in the next video. Bye-bye.